Drakthyr then. Okay, you bring all the powers of the dragonflights together, you add in a bit of mortal special sauce, and, well, you're pretty much there. Kind of came out of left field for a lot of people, but as you're going to discover today, it's actually a thing black dragons have done for a long time, and it's pretty powerful. Kind of Dragon Soul powerful, which actually does bring up some big old lore questions. I mean, what is the ancient war that these Drakthyr
Just
were
making
created
sure
to
you
fight?
see it, yeah. So, thank you.
That's a good question. Should we be worried that they've woken up? Kind of signifies maybe that war is going to happen. And just how do they fit into the game's lore?
Yeah, we still
Because they're
don't know.
not as strange as you
We still don't know why the Dragon Isles have reawakened. Like I said, we've had so many bad things happen. We've had old gods come down. We've had a corrupt dragon almost destroy the entire world. We've had a scourge invasion that literally almost wiped out life as we know it. We had a legion attack. Evidently, none of those things were big enough to wake the Dragon Isles. We had the freaking jailer, supposedly the biggest bad of them all, break the sky above Azeroth and bring the afterlife into the living life. Still wasn't big enough for the Dragon Isles to wake up. But now something has awoken the Dragon Isles. What the hell is bigger than all of those things? We'll find out soon.
Because between Nefarian and his chromatic experiments, Sinestra and her twilights, and just about every other time that a dragon has been changed with magic in the setting, they actually totally fit in. That's exactly what we're going to work out today. So, join us as we figure out what crazy schemes the Black Dragons have been up to.
Silver Dragon, you make a cool point that I always talked about since we entered Shadowlands, and I thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for them to bring up WoW 2, right? We could have gone into the Shadowlands, and we came back, and the world has been changed forever because time passes differently. But I don't think they're going to go with that. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Pug Raid Central is bigger than all those things are coming, and the killing of the jailer was big enough. There you go, Sugar. Problem solved. Couldn't agree more. That's what it was. Pug Raid Central.
The thing is, though, you wouldn't really know about them because they actually don't have squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming.
Wow.
Or, of course,
look at that
today's
plug.
Sponsor. And the Black Dragons, I mean, come on, got to work in your PR. A short while ago, I added the media section to our studio's website. It was dead easy. It was super fast. People have been clamoring for some more music from our game, and with Squarespace's easy-to-use tools, doing this took like 5 minutes, maybe less.
Oh,
I headed to
wow.
the media page that I made last time. I created an audio block. I dropped the music in, and the SoundCloud integration's dead easy, and just voila, it worked. And with a flip of the switch, the page is live. And
Look
that means
at
you can check
that.
out those never-before heard
Check it
tracks
out.
now. All easily, and thanks to Squarespace.
There you
of course,
go.
do a hell of a lot more. Memberships, email lists, e-commerce, and loads of other fantastic features. I mean, last time I gave the e-commerce a whirl to see how it would work. It was super easy, and now that I know they
I will get a
hook
Pug
into
Raid
the
Central
fulfillment center
too.
that we use, I know that eventually when I make
If
moves
you do,
there,
post that in
it'll
the
be
Discord.
automated and it'll work real smooth. Pretty awesome. So you can get started with Squarespace's award-winning website templates today and build your own presence on the web at squarespace.com
There you go.
/Bellular
Bellular
Gaming.
Gaming. Use the
Bellular
code.
Gaming for 10% off. Thanks to Squarespace. Let's go.
Day with the plugs.
The Drakthyr and Evoker go hand in hand. In interviews, Ian told us that they thought about a few different class combos, but basically when the lore of the Drakthyr came together, their class ended up becoming self-evident. So, we have a starting point for both this new race and
Bellular
class.
sold out Sam.
Neltharion.
The man's. I mean, this is Bellular's job. I mean, he's got to take what he can get, right? Bellular needs to make some money. He's got to feed Bellular. He has to feed his soul.
We're not talking
His
today
dragon soul.
about the big Deathwing that terrorized Azeroth
Oh,
for
nice. Somebody
10,000
pulled.
years, or anything like that. Because to understand the Drakthyr, we need to understand the mind of an uncorrupted Neltharion. Who was he? What was he like? Well, Neltharion was a savage and cunning proto-drake. He had a deep sense of honor, and he was closest to Malygos in terms of friendship, respecting Malygos' intelligence. Even as a proto-drake, the Neltharion would absently stare at mountains, almost as if he was listening to whispers from the deep. a sign of what eventually would be his future corruption. After his empowerment up to being an aspect, Neltharion was given the Hammer of Khaz'goroth, and imbued within that was the power to shape mountains and waterways to benefit the fledgling mortal races and help defend the Earth.
There you
He was
go.
considered to be the most wise and benevolent of the dragons, the Earth Warder. That is the
I wonder if because he was the most wise that's why the old gods went for him. Maybe I'm sure we'll get more Deathwing backstory in Dragonflight, because that is an interesting story.
guy that creates the Drakthyr. All 5 Dragonflights.
Oh my god.
That's
Oh
the
my
dragon
god,
soul.
that's a misclick.
Evidently, what he...
That's a
mountains,
misclick.
almost as if he was listening to whispers from the deep. A sign of what eventually would be his future corruption.
There you go.
After his empowerment up to being an aspect, Neltharion was given the Hammer of Khaz'goroth, and imbued within that was the power
the
to
hammer.
shape mountains
We heard
and
it.
waterways to benefit the fledgling mortal races and help defend the Earth. He was considered to be the most wise and benevolent of the dragons, the Earth Warder. That is the mind, that's the guy that creates the Drakthyr. Wise, benevolent. You might ask, if he's so benevolent, why is he building an army? Of course, you need an army for one thing, and that is war.
Born for war.
So as you know, the
Oh,
proto-drakes were infused with all this order magic from the Titans, and they were uplifted, right? Up to being the dragons that we know. Now, they were, all the dragons, the proto-drakes, they were kind of offered the same deal, essentially, and many of them did join. But some believed that being uplifted and serving this purpose, it was basically servitude with another name. They thought that instead of accepting all this order magic and Titan business, they should go back to the primal source, the elements. For we know that the dragons somehow actually do descend from the elements. And of course, the elements are of Azeroth herself. This was
That makes
a
sense.
more philosophical division at first with the dragons, but then the conflict escalated. We don't actually have the timeline to this, but we do know that 2 very important things happened. Number 1, the primalists began essentially worshipping Galakron, really believing in him. This was a departure.
Galakron.
From most of
How
what
is he
we'd
gonna
heard
be
about
brought into
Galakron
Dragonflight?
Before. So, depending on dawn of aspects being holy canon, Galakron was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Not just like a massive proto-drake, but also whatever corruption that took him wanted to destroy Azeroth. It's really quite strange. So we kind of have to wonder, do the primals want the same thing? Or is there perhaps a dimension to Galakron that we're unaware of, and maybe that's one of the things Blizzard is actually excited to tackle in this expansion? But either way, the
There's no
primals
way
did
that
something
the name
powerful
Galakron
enough
doesn't come up in the
to
expansion at least.
challenge this sort of force of the Titans.
Hopefully much more than just the
Second,
name, though, because I'm interested to know what the hell's going on.
Powerful primals were infused
Or what
with
happened.
elemental energy, becoming the
Maybe we get a flashback of the Galakron fight against the dragon aspects. That'd be cool.
primal incarnates. Now, this is a huge escalation in this war because the primals now actually had something powerful enough to challenge the aspects themselves. And indeed, these primal incarnates are the first raid tier of this expansion.
Man,
Now, way
this
back
raid
in the
gear
time of this deep
looks
history,
sick.
The elemental lords, they were actually under the old gods' influence. So I suppose we could be looking at an incredibly old Order versus Void conflict, but I have to imagine far more told through the lens of the people who actually are involved in this deep history, and of course in a time where the old gods are they're essentially inactive in Azeroth.
Right, yeah, the old
Anyway,
gods
at
are...
some point in this conflict, obviously...
They're shelved. Let's just say they're shelved. There's no way we are done with the old gods, because we're not done with the Void, and the Void created the old gods. We're going to see them again. That's a guarantee. World of Warcraft lives by the slogan, "What is dead may never die." Definitely. Little bit of a Game of Thrones reference for you guys there.
obviously reached the boiling point.
The old gods will
Neltharion
be back.
had a plan with all of this. So, whilst he was doing all of his, Neltharion Earthwarder things, he kind of noticed this, mortal strength, and he came to respect it. Now, at the time, you've got the Kaldori Empire dominating Azeroth, but of course you've also got the Trolls, the Yangol, Vrykul
The
legend
Yangol.
even tells us that they were, of course, infected with the Curse of Flesh 15,000 years ago, and that means perhaps there's even a slight chance there was a few humans knocking about. So, Neltharion basically wanted the resilience of these mortals.
How many times have we killed things in previous expansions that pop back up 3 expansions later? Yeah. How many times have we killed Onyxia? Poor thing.
That special sauce the mortals just seem to have, but with the magic of dragons, and not just one type. They would have the power of every dragonflight.
KT, yeah, Kalthazad. We're literally killing him in on death, too.
In a war against these primals. Now, we've got no idea
More dots.
what happened in this war. But considering that the primal incarnates are in prison, and that prison is our first raid, I think we can guess the outcome, and that they lost. So that's their origin. That's the origin of the Drakthyr. They seemingly were made for this conflict, but they were never unleashed.
I feel like we killed Mal'Ganis a couple of times.
What did Ian mean when he said that the evoker naturally came from Drakthyr lore? Well,
I'm trying to think if we have.
So the Drakthyr bring together the power of life, the Emerald Dream, arcane, time, all the power of the planet itself, just the stuff from all 5 aspects. Super powerful. Some people are maybe questioning, maybe people who remember the character Madan, maybe thinking too powerful. Well, they're probably toned down a lot. So the Drakthyr may have been the first time that these powers were actually...
I'm sure the Drakthyr are going to be OP when they come out. Like the Death Knights were when they came out, and Demon Hunters. There's going to be a lot of Drakthyr doing a lot of fucking damage and a lot of healing.
Combined. But they weren't the last, and what Deathwing, or Neltharion, learned from this almost certainly feeds...
We never killed Galakron, though. We faced Mal'Ganis, but never killed him, have we? That's what I was thinking, Day. When Sugar Dust said that, I was like, have we killed Mal'Ganis? Have we killed him, though? I'm not sure. I know we faced him, but have we killed him?
So, at some point after this war with the Primal Incarnates, but before the War of the Ancients, the voices in Neltharion's head started to get louder. Now, he began to just feel suffocated by his responsibility. His responsibility to the whole planet. And he went insane. The voices gave him a plan to stop that pain, to create this special golden disc, and to invest within it the power of...
Yeah, always freezes us and portals away.
That's the Dragon Soul. Evidently, what he learned making the Drakthyr was then applied to the Dragon Soul. So when Neltharion approached the other aspects with the plan for the Dragon Soul, they really must have trusted him in general. Now the thing is, they actually canonically did not know about the Drakthyr. So while the Drakthyr were created to deal with whatever war, evidently the Primal Incarnates get imprisoned, and then the Drakthyr are not needed. Of course, until in this expansion, the power of the elements and all that comes back to the Isles, and they leave their hibernation. So anyway,
here come the Drakthyr. Respect.
A portion of their power permanently into the disc, the Dragon Soul. But buried at the heart of the Dragon Soul, of course, was Old God Corruption. Then, when the War of the Ancients broke out, Neltharion saw the perfect opportunity to release the power of this artifact, and he tried to dominate the other aspects. Malfurion, Crassus, Broxgar, the very cool time-hopping orc, they stole the Demon Soul from Neltharion.
Gamer Smoosh, yeah, I would love to have you for heals.
The power of this device, it was then used as the key artifact in the ritual that sundered Azeroth. The Dragon Soul then fades a bit into obscurity, but even 10,000 years later, it was powerful enough to dominate Alexstrasza. So the Evoker is basically this very same power,
Dreadlords are
humongously scaled down. Also, without Void Corruption.
Save a healing spot for me doing more Jailer pull with this group. Okay.
A secret about themselves. Anyway, combining all of that power must have seemed like a great idea because the Black Dragons just kept on trying it. Turns out they're actually a pretty smart, if unhinged bunch. Experimenting in dragon eggs was the
like
Black
father,
Dragon's
like
plan
Whelpling.
to basically take over the world. Their super weapons.
The Black Dragons, they got 2 people right now. They got Rathian and Ebonhorn. They're the only real viable leaders left of the Black Dragons. The only people who can bring the Black Dragons back, right? Who's it going to be? I don't know. Rathian seems to believe it's supposed to be him. And I'm sure that's going to play out over the course of that expansion.
Project, their secret plan. That's exactly what Nefarian wanted. Of course, Nefarian was one of Neltharion.
We're close to 20 people.
Strongest children, and he shared his father's
we need 1 DPS, 1 healer, 1 tank.
cunning mind. You see, the Drakthyr
Who knows how long it'll take to get him, though.
Combining the power of all flights into a fully fledged dragon, not some sort of little mortal dragonlet. The result could potentially wipe out every single other flight. After the Second War, Nefarian moves in to Blackrock Spire. He then orchestrates a secret campaign of stealing eggs from all the other dragon
Look
flights.
at that.
Then he performs torturous experiments, pumping them full with the energy of the other dragonflights. Now, these experiments were largely failures, but there's one chromatic dragon,
Sam the
Glyph,
frog?
who
What?
was created.
What about the frog?
Now, even if Nefarian
you
never
talking
got
about?
to see the perfect end goal of his experiments, his hard work did eventually.
Are you doing the
pay off.
first boss, Sam?
The
What are the
Twilight's
differences? I
hammer
think
plan
everything just hits
told.
harder in Mythic.
They kicked the project back into action, creating the ultimate
But we are doing the
experiment,
first bosses.
Chromatus. 5-headed, one head from each.
We
front.
3-tanked our
It
first kill
took
in this
all
boss.
5
What?
aspects and
Really?
Thrall summoning in the elements to bring this monstrosity down. But his body was literally indestructible, and now
It's
there is
killing
a
people
prophecy that
behind
he
you?
one day will
What?
return to destroy all the dragons.
What the hell?
That's pretty big and pretty bad, and even if it's still just appearing in a book, it's certainly one thing that is on our radar for an enemy in Dragonflight. However, perhaps, after some discussions with the team, I'm thinking that because there are just some, let's just say Alex Strauss has put in a very iffy situation in that book, and that makes me have a feeling, especially in light of more recent
Oh, the
events,
boss is out with the ads in Mythic. Oh, damn.
the Blizzard want to sort of stray away from that territory. So who knows if Chromatus will actually end up being in the game. But what makes us think of some Chromatic Dragon stuff is, of course, that we do see one of them alongside, of course, also seeing Resurgent Black
I
Dragons
did not know
at
the
end.
frog was attacking the
And
raid.
all that just kind of points to the sorts of enemies that are becoming active in Azeroth and that we may indeed face on the Isles. Messing with dragon magic is probably easier than we think because it keeps on happening. During the Second War, Deathwing brought a whole bunch of black dragon eggs to Draenor. The plan was to set up shop and, of course, to slowly take over the planet. If you've been to the Blade's Edge Mountains, you'll have seen how that went. But some eggs did actually survive, and when the planet was shattered by Ner'zhul, they actually got infused.
Oh, so this fight
with
seems
the
very
power of
different.
Nether, becoming one of the things that I think was the most inspiring in the game to young players like me, the Netherwing Flight, who of course were a major rep in TBC. And that should show you how dragons work. If you blast enough magic at their eggs, they just fundamentally change. That's true of nearly everything.
Change
in
them
Azeroth,
before
be
they're
it
born.
Humans, dwarves, gnomes, or order, being influenced by the void's curse of flesh. Trolls becoming elves through the well of eternity. But the dragons just seem to be hyper affected by it. Just look at all the flights and all the different variations and all the mad, wacky science experiments that have been pulled off. And that brings me to Cyntharia, Neltharian's prime consort, who
Is that a
realized
Nixie or
this incredible
Cyntharia?
potential. And then, with her characteristic black dragon cunning, she experimented on the Netherwing eggs to create the Twilight Dragonflight.
I guess it's Cyntharia.
And that's just where, of course, the natural cunning that went into the Drakthyr is seen, but of course filtered through this kind of void, twisted mind with Cyntharia, who, as we pointed out in this video about dragons, seriously, it's a really awesome video, but like 8 people watched it, so definitely check it out if you're interested in learning all the
What?
things that you really should know as you go into this expansion. They'll make it more fun for you.
What video is that?
There's her stories there, as are a bunch of others. Man, the dragon stories are really cool.
The dragon stories
But
are
the
cool,
thing
I
is, all
agree.
this
I'm excited for the lore of
spooky evil
Dragonflight.
stuff, chromatic dragons and twilight dragons, that's not the Drakthyr. The Drakthyr are kind of like the power of the dragon soul in a way, bringing all 5 together. The experiments of the chromatic dragons and the twisted genius of the twilights, those are different. They're all black dragon cunning, but from a time where the black dragons are evil, whereas the Drakthyr are black dragon cunning and wisdom and all of that, but from a time when the black dragons were actually the good guys.
What's up, Meow?
We've seen all these evil dragon experiments.
I haven't
Now
seen
we
it
get to
before
play
either. What are
as
you
a
guys
good
talking about?
dragon experiment. But the reason why this general setup with the lore is actually quite engaging and interesting to me is I know that their first zone, their starting zone, is set up to
That
be a
video?
mystery.
Yeah,
And it's a zone that
I'm
will
guessing you're talking
return
about that
to at
dragon
max
video. I don't know where the
level.
hell
I think
he's
there's
talking
a lot
about.
of
I would've watched
storytelling
it.
potential here. I think the idea of being created for a purpose, but then actually having your own personhood, working out who you are in the world, what you think about things, I actually think that's a really awesome setup.
Need a
for playable
Shami
race
with
in a video game.
earthquakes.
I mean, it's just so different to being
What
Joe the
spec
human,
would give him
right?
earthquakes?
So I think it's really cool. I'm pretty damn interested in them.
Yeah, the dragon
And because
video.
of the
I
super tight
thought about it
integration of
after.
class
Figured it
and
out.
Spec, while that, or class and race, while that does obviously have downsides we
Dave
all know
votes
about,
multiple
I think
times
there's
a day.
also some pretty cool upsides in just how like visceral they could feel.
Oh, they just look so
tell you
dumb.
what,
I mean,
touch wood, it will be.
we'll see how they look with gear on them, right? They don't have any like legitimate gear on them yet. This is just like a cloth with a cock cover here. Like it's not real gear yet. We'll see how they look with
Good, of
shoulders
course, but I'm pretty
and shit
excited,
on them.
and I hope today I've explained some of the lore that makes them
Elemental
make sense.
shaman, okay.
Maybe you just more appreciate the sorts of draconic things that are going on. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found it interesting, enlightening, or maybe even entertaining. And of course, a
Maybe.
massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. They have been really a supporter of the channel for such a long time.
Great
I
job,
use their
Squarespace,
tools.
for
They
sponsoring
save
the
me
video.
a
Thank you
hell of a
so
lot of
much.
Time, and time is a really, really valuable thing. So knowing that I can very easily do web things when I need to is
Oh, thank you so much for that, Bellular. That was wonderful.